Hello everyone! Welcome to Messy Hearts, where we help people who seek advice for their troubled relationships and lives. Listen carefully and share your experience down in the comments below to help those who seek it. We hope you enjoy. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let's head on to the first story. Story 1. My wife was sneaking out with a coworker. What can I do? I was in a bad place about 5 years ago. I lost both my parents to cancer and had to deal with their estates. I have a sibling as well, but we are not close and they were making this really hard for everyone. It was a tough time and I was very depressed. My wife and I were together for 10 years prior to getting married, and we had been married for 4 years at this point. During this time, my wife would come home from work and talk non-stop about a new coworker. It was to the point where I jokingly asked if she had a crush on this guy, which she got offended at and said no. A little background here: my wife had always had a large group of male friends and I've never had a problem with that. She was even friends with another male coworker who would occasionally come over and hang with both of us. As long as I got to meet them and get to know them, I had no issues with male friends. Anyway, one time she mentioned she was going out to the store for cigarettes. There are many stores around us, so this is a 10 to 15 minute trip tops. Took her over an hour to get home. I asked if she went to Timbuktu because it took forever. She said she got stuck behind a train at the tracks. That doesn't make sense, but I gave her the benefit of doubt. Maybe she was doing some secret gift shopping or something. But this started becoming a regular thing: twice a week, 3 times a week, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Every time she came home it was, I got stuck behind a train. Now this is the part I'm not proud of myself for. I started checking her phone for messages between her and this new coworker. There were none there on my first few checks. Then, one day when I checked, there it was. A new message between the two of them asking about meeting up the last time she disappeared. So now I know where she's going on these trips out. The next time she was going to the store, I asked her point blank if she was meeting this coworker and she said no. I asked her again where she was going and mentioned I knew who she was going to meet with. She doubled down on the lie, so I came clean about seeing the message on her phone. That conversation was a tough one. She acknowledged she had been disappearing to meet this coworker but insisted it was just to give him some weed. She said she would delete his number from his phone and no longer talk to him outside of work. I lost all trust in her, but she said she was willing to work on gaining my trust again. A few weeks later, the coworker quit working there. Honestly, it still really bothered me. About a year later, she told me the coworker was back working there, which opened the conversation again. She said that the coworker was really flaky and would leave her waiting for hours with the weed for him, and that's why it took so long. About a year ago, I noticed she stopped wearing her wedding/engagement rings. She said they don't fit anymore. I told her I'd get them resized for her, but she shot that down. They both do still fit, FYI. Anyway, this conversation led to more talk about the coworker. She told me that she wasn't getting what she wanted out of our relationship with me being so depressed. It was difficult for her to talk to me, so she was meeting with the coworker to talk about us, me, and other life stuff she couldn't talk to me about. Now, as far as I can tell, this qualifies as emotional cheating. She was hiding this friend from me, and she's never hid any friends from me before. Over this 5-year period, our relationship feels more like roommates. There is zero romance over this period. It always brings me back to what she said about not getting what she needs from me, so she looked elsewhere. I really hope she's not looking elsewhere for romance. I've brought it up a few times, and it usually ends with her angry with me. She says not everything is about sex. I get it, I'm not asking for sex though. Like, how about curling up and cuddling with a good movie? Or attempting to even just go to bed at the same time? She says she wants to work on things, but all this time later it feels the exact same. She mentioned she doesn't want a divorce and is still in love with me, but I'm not feeling this love at all. She said if it was ever going to get to divorce, that it would have to be me making that decision. I'm not sure how to approach this. I'm not sure I can bring this up anymore without getting a huge fight going. The other thing bothering me was every time we talked about it, I would get a little bit more information that I was missing before. What can I do here? What piece of advice would you give to OP? Let us know down in the comments, and let's move on to our next story. Story 2. I'm about to move back in with my pregnant ex-wife. How can we make this work? My ex-wife is pregnant with our first child due on Christmas Eve. There's more detail in my profile, but essentially we broke up last Christmas and I moved back in with my parents 200+ miles away. She started a relationship with a coworker which caused so much drama at her work that in February she reached a mutual agreement that she would immediately resign in exchange for 6 months' salary. The relationship ended and she used the settlement money to restart the IVF process we'd paused years earlier. When I found out she was pregnant, I contacted the IVF clinic, who explained that the contracts we'd signed at the start of the process were still valid and they hadn't done anything wrong. I disagreed, and thanks to the advice/recommendations of our /Legal Advice UK, I hired solicitors specializing in clinical negligence and contract law. They managed to negotiate a settlement with the clinic in lieu of legal action, and my ex and I ended up with about £80,000 each after fees. Plus, the clinic updated their processes to require consent be reconfirmed by both parties before any embryo transfer takes place. For the last 4 months, I've been in regular contact with my ex, discussing settlement negotiations and traveling down south for scans. When I asked why she did it, she just said that she knew this was her last chance to have a baby, and when she came into some money, she took it as a sign that she should go ahead with the embryo transfer before I remembered to withdraw consent. She's since been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which in her mind has absolved her of any responsibility for her actions. She's desperate for us to get back together and raise our son as a family. I'm not interested in being a couple, but I obviously don't want to be 200 miles away from my son. I've got a new job, so I really didn't want to move back down to Hampshire, but she was willing to move up to Yorkshire as long as we lived together, so we agreed to spend the settlement money on a house in my hometown. I picked up the keys last week, and I've been furnishing/decorating in preparation for us moving in next week. My ex has no friends or family round here and no job. Us living together is going to be super awkward, but once the baby comes, I'm hoping we can get into a co-parenting routine. The new house has 3 bedrooms, so we'll have 1 each and 1 for our son. We've agreed not to see other people for at least 3 years, her request. What's the best way to navigate this situation? We're both very excited to be parents, and I hope I'm making the best of a shitty situation, but it's obviously fraught with potential pitfalls. I don't see us rekindling a romantic relationship, but in an ideal world we'll live together for a few years, then sell the house, by which point she'll be settled here and we can live close to each other and co-parent our son. I hope I'm not being unbelievably naive and making a huge mistake. My parents are excited to be grandparents, but they're not keen on the idea of us living together. Do you have any advice on this one? Comment down below, and let's move on into the third story. Story 3. Last week, out of nowhere, my wife told me that she doesn't love me romantically and wants to take space. Will I regret it if I don't fight, or is it best to just let her walk away? So my wife, 24F, and I, 25M, met when we were both in high school. Liked each other from afar. And then in 2020, when I moved back to our hometown, she began pursuing me pretty heavily. I didn't need much convincing, so pretty quickly we were dating. We fell in love hard and fast, and after 6 months of dating, we eloped in the woods with our closest friends. Stupid, I know. But up until now, it seemed like the best decision I had ever made. We've now been married for almost 4 years. The first year was wonderful. We moved in together, I got a real adult job as an accountant, and my dog fell in love with her too. Then about a year ago, after a date night at the bar and a couple drinks, she tells me she has been feeling a little off about us. Like we're roommates, and that she thinks it might be because of some minor communication challenges and contrasting work hours we were having. She says she has considered leaving but needs to think about it and decide what to do. So over the last year we worked to improve our marriage, and I had thought it worked. She never brought up wanting to leave again for the last year. She only ever said she wanted to be with me. So cut to now. Last week she came to me again after a date night at the bar, what is it about date nights, and said the same thing again. Only this time she has told me that she loves me but sees me as her best friend. She said when we are intimate it's strange for her because she knows it doesn't mean the same thing for her as it does for me. When she kisses me and we cuddle at night, she says that's because it's routine, not because she has romantic feelings for me. She is leaving at the end of the month to stay with her mom. She has promised to consider giving us another shot, but has also said she isn't sure if it's really what she wants anymore. Does anyone think this sounds salvageable? And if it isn't, then how do I process this? Thank you for watching. All advice is welcomed and will help these people to resolve the things that trouble them. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think. And never forget that your smile is your best feature. Wear it proudly.